Good afternoon and welcome to our Gemini Goddess Morning Star Journey, fourth gate heart activation class. I am Sophia Mona Lisa and I am an alchemical creation high priestess. And I am the founder of the Golden Ray Center. It is an Aquarian age goddess and I established it to do my sacred work in helping to restore the culture of sovereignty and sacred relationship. I'm also the founder of the Rose Wheel Mystery School as an extension of the Golden Ray Center, through which I provide these sacred feminine classes and just very recently, sacred masculine classes. So if this is the first time for you engaging with us, please know that our sacred feminine classes are based on Venus as the representative of the sacred feminine in the sky, and also as our own personal representative of the inner sacred feminine that we have within us. We follow her synodic cycle, and her synodic cycle follows the myth of Inanna, where she goes into the underworld, and as she does so, she passes through 7 gates, and then she returns from the underworld, and as she comes out of the underworld, she has to pass through those same 7 gates. And each of those gates corresponds with one of the chakras. And so the Gemini Goddess Morning Star journey is about the descent journey, the descent into the underworld. That is the Morning Star journey. The ascent journey from the underworld is the Evening Star journey, and that will be quite a bit down the road from now. Venus in the sky is in the Gemini archetype for the sacred feminine. And so that's the archetype that we are working with. And we have just had this month the 4th gate activation. And on the way down, the 4th gate corresponds with the heart chakra. So that was on October 13th. And here we go. First thing I would like to do is I'd like to give a big shout out and a message of appreciation to Kaylin Castell, who is a fellow priestess sister. We are both in the lineage of Nicole Christine, and also Tammy Brunk. They have an organization called Venus Alchemy. And Kaylin specifically has been working with the Venus synodic cycle since the 90s, I believe, 1990s. And they have developed the Venus work around this Venus synodic cycle and the Inanna myth. And so really this work is just kind of standing on the shoulders of Kaylin and Tammy and the phenomenal contributions that they have made to the sacred feminine community, to the astrology community. So just wanting to acknowledge and appreciate them. My work is different than their work. I incorporate principles from shamanic astrology. I am not a shamanic astrology purist. I also incorporate principles of the law of attraction, through my experience and understanding that I've learned through Abraham and Esther Hicks. And I also am very connected with shamanic medicine and animal totems. And so I throw in elements of that. For those of you that aren't familiar with shamanic astrology, it's very much based on the goddess and the gods and their archetypes through the 12 astrological signs. So that's what you'll be hearing from us in this class. Now, what I'd like to do at this point, particularly if you're new to this work, is I'd just like to take a moment to share a transparency clause. And that has to do with being empowered and disempowered. You can see here this little glyph, which represents Gemini, which is the archetype that we're dealing with right now with the sacred feminine. And Gemini has to do with polarities, the light and the dark. and everything in between. And so in life, and most particularly when we're dealing with the Gemini goddess, we are going to be experiencing these polarities in a way that can bring up our shadow selves, pieces of our shadow. And if you're not familiar with the shadow self, you can Google that and dig into that. It has to do with Jung's work on in terms of the pieces of ourselves that are wounded, that we have given away, that we have lost. And you may have had some experience with that whenever you're in a situation and you're feeling what people call triggered. When you hear that word, oh, I'm triggered, that's a key word that shadow is at play. So because that will come up in this kind of work, and most especially in working with the Gemini archetype, just wanted to give a little space to speaking around it. The first thing I'd like you to understand that this mystery school provides a continuously evolving program. And because it is continuously evolving, that can bring up feelings of discomfort as it's evolving. People like to feel safe in what's known. And as we move into areas that are unknown, that discomfort can arise. The other thing that you need to know about the work that we do through this mystery school is that it is very deep alchemical work. And so it is expected and it is necessary to have these uncomfortable feelings arise when we are consciously engaging, not only with the archetype as a whole, but also at each gate activation. There are different shadow pieces associated with each gate, with each chakra, and particularly on the descent journey, which is where we are now. This is the opportunity where all of that is coming up because those pieces are desiring to get your attention, to be seen by you, to be acknowledged by you. Now, through this mystery school and the program, I do provide support for navigating the shadow pieces that are showing up. And that support is provided within the scope of the personal sessions that you get in addition to this class and the group support session. However, I am aware that sometimes the scope of what you're dealing with may be beyond that 2-hour class or the group support session. So any shadow dancing that you feel you may require that's beyond the scope of those sessions is also available, and it is available through booking a coaching session with me. Now, personally, my Venus overtone is in Scorpio. That Scorpio archetype is the archetype of the alchemist and the shamanist. And so I have a very innate ability to be a shadow dancer. And of course, dealing with polarities, on the other side of being a shadow dancer is being a shadow magnet. And so I have a lot of experience with that. And in addition to being trained to discern, which pieces of shadow are mine that I can own and which pieces are not mine so that I can help others to dance with their own shadow. I do that in a very safe and non-judgmental sacred container to support you in that process. Now, I do want to qualify that in order to honor the sanctity of this sacred space, which has been established for conscious collaboration, any issues that are arising from imbalance related to codependency must be supported through a coaching call. And if you're not familiar with what codependency is, let me just say briefly that it is when you have been so completely disempowered that you are looking to others to validate you, to give you a sense of worthiness, to give you a sense of value, to make you feel good. So if you're looking for love in all the wrong places, that could be a signal to you that maybe you're dealing with some codependency issues. And that's outside of the scope of these classes, and I can work with you privately. Now, let me do say that I am not a counselor or a psychologist. What I can do is I can provide a mirror to help you work with that. So I do not provide any type of medical treatment or diagnosis whatsoever. And just to be aware that if you decide to book a coaching call with me, they are prepaid at the time of booking for $108 per hour. So is there anything that anybody would like to share regarding this idea that we have been encountering as we've been going through these gates and the shadow pieces that have been coming up? Okay.
Well,
Go ahead,
I,
Wanda.
for me, the only thing that came up as you were talking that I had confusion around is when you said, if you're looking for love in all the wrong places, that didn't make any sense to me. So,
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So basically, when we're in a codependent relationship, we jump into relationships because we're looking for people to validate us. We're looking for them to make us happy. We're looking to them to make us feel loved. And so I don't know if you're familiar with that old country western song, Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places, but that kind of speaks to the fact that you're getting into relationship after relationship and you're having the same kinds of unfulfilling experiences, and it's because you're looking to that other person to make things right for you instead of taking on the personal responsibility of making yourself feel good and loving yourself. Does that help, Wanda?
yes, thank you.
Right. So the thing about these polarities, which is really important to understand, because we live in a dualistic world, you're going to have these polarities and there's no judgment about them. It's just a matter of light and dark, positive and negative. And what they really represent is how much you're standing in your power and how much you're giving away your power. Are you feeling empowered or disempowered? And your emotional guidance system, the way that you're feeling inside, can help you discern how much of that is going on. And if a feeling is coming up and you're feeling triggered, that's an indication to you that this is a place where you're feeling disempowered and it's providing you an opportunity to reclaim that power. So just kind of want to clarify that as well.
Thank you. That was very clear.
Okay, great. Is there anything that Leela or Maureen would like to speak to around that? Okay, let's look at our agenda for today's class. We've got a lot to do today. We always start our classes with opening sacred space. This is something I've just recently implemented in the class, which I really like. We have a group session between this class and then the next class, but it's nice to have an opportunity at this class to kind of do a little closure around the last gate before we dive into this new gate. So I've added that piece. We're going to look at what's going on in the heavens in terms of any of the planets that are in retrograde right now. And then we're going to look at this gate activation, which is called the gate of compassion. That is the heart chakra gate. We're going to dive really deep into the heart chakra today, particularly because it's the chakra that bridges the lower three chakras with the upper chakras. So we're going to look really deep at that. Then we're going to see what's happening at the fourth gate activation in terms of the aspects that were in the sky at the time of the activation on October 13th. We'll see those aspects on the astrological chart, and then we're going to break them down and we're going to look at the themes for each of those. We're going to look at what's going on in the grander picture over the course of the year in terms of what the cosmic dance is. And we're going to have some vision questing opportunities. We'll talk about when the next support group is. And then, as always, at any point in this class, because it is a collaboration, it is not me speaking to you, it is very much a collaboration. Any questions and answers at any time are welcome, but then we have a space provided for any final questions and answers. So how does that sound, ladies?
Sounds great.
Good, good.
Yeah, sounds good. I just hope I can hang in there.
Me too. But we're happy when you are here, that's for sure. You can jump in anytime. So, the open sacred space today, because there was such an overwhelming response to the chanting that we did in the sacred masculine class, we are doing chanting again today. And today we are invoking the goddess Gayatri. She's one of my favorite goddesses, and I love the Gayatri mantra. And because this particular gate activation is happening in Virgo, I think I'm safe in saying that Gayatri is probably the namesake for our planetary mother, Gaia. So I've got my candle lit. If you want to get your candle lit, get your space prepared, however you like to do that. And I'm going to spray my spray here. You want to smudge yourself. And when everybody's ready, just give me a yes, and we will start the chant. Now, this is I think about a 4-minute or 3-minute chant. I'm not sure. We'll only do a couple minutes of it, okay? These are the words, Om Bur Bhuva Svaha, Tat Savitur Varenyam, Bargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dio Yona Prachodayat. So you'll be able to follow along as we're listening to the chant.
Thank you. I'm ready.
Okay, thank you, Wanda. Good morning. Leela? Good. All right, here we go. How did you like that invocation, Maureen?
It's beautiful. Yeah, I really like it. As I said before, I've not practiced chanting at all, and just a little bit, but I love it. I'd like to learn more.
This is one of the most powerful mantras, chants that there is available to us in addition to Om Namah Shivaya.
I used to know what the words meant as far as for the mantra, but I don't remember them anymore. Do you remember The
I don't
translation.
remember them anymore. And I thought about putting the translation there like I did in the Sacred Masculine class. And I guess maybe I got distracted. But yeah, the words are beautiful as well.
Research.
Okay. Whoops, sorry. Didn't mean to do that. Trying to get to the next slide here. There we are. Here we go. Third gate. That was the throat chakra. Third gate activation closure. So I kind of upgraded this a little bit this time too to help us with the processing of the third gate and any of the demons that showed up for you. We use the word demons to represent those shadow pieces because we have quite an affinity with Asmodeus, who is our daimon. So these are some ways that those demons may have showed up for you. Any ways in which you are not allowing yourself to use your voice to speak your truth. And when you're speaking your truth, being authentic, being transparent. Any ways in which your words are not in alignment with your thoughts and deeds. So that brings in the question of, are your words in integrity? Any ways in which you are learning to discern how what you are communicating may be a shadow projection rather than a belief, a knowledge, opinion, or your truth. Any ways in which you may have discovered that your truth may not be someone else's truth. Any ways in which you may not be clearly articulating your desires, your boundaries, and or your expectations. So did anyone have any of these come up or any others that you'd like to share with us as we do this, provide this space for closing out what we experienced in the third gate activation?
How about all of them? I'm just kidding.
Very likely, Leela. Very likely.
In some capacity, I feel that it's been a huge theme. And it's quite fitting that we just, during this gate, we just had this moving into Mercury in retrograde where I've just been really feeling that. And the energy of Scorpio as well. It feels like there's been so much that's under the surface that's really needing to be spoken. I can really feel that in my own self and just seeing that as well. And truth being a huge guide for me of like, I have to speak my truth. I have to say what's true for me, and that I can do it in a way that's kind, but I can't hold back from not sharing that. And that the parts where I've held back my throat and my voice it's not possible anymore. Yeah, it's very strong. So yeah, and seeing the ways that holding back has been dimming me from really being, the full expression of how I want to show up in this world.
Exactly. That's beautiful. That really is beautiful, because when we don't allow our voice to speak the fullness of whatever it is that's requiring to be heard, that is a way that we give our power away. And when we unconsciously do that, we can start having these triggering experiences with these shadow pieces coming up, because it's trying to let you know, use your voice, step into your power and use your voice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How about you, Maureen?
Mine particularly, I have an issue with boundaries in my own home. And so I've been working through that. There isn't any intention consciously to throw up barriers to what I do from within my home by others who live with me. But I think unconsciously there is. And so I need to be clear about my own boundaries within my own home. What I do that is sacred to me needs to be respected. So that was one. And the other was social media. And I know that you, Sophia Mona Lisa, already found that that was not a place for your voice. And I don't see that it's a place for mine either. It's a polarizing place where people just use it to um, make fun of other people. There is no respect between political parties there. And that's about all we're talking about, of course, because this election is just incredible. And so other than the groups that I belong to, I'm trying to assess my role there. It isn't to give political views, and it isn't to spot fake news either, which I kind of took on in the earlier days of the election year. But I'm not doing that now. I don't see that that's a good place for me to use my voice.
I can understand that and appreciate that because I went through that same metamorphosis. And
Mhm.
it's interesting that we're talking about social media because the Gemini archetype of the sacred feminine, as we were discussing prior to class, is an air archetype, and social media is an air medium. And so, yes, finding out that, I can no longer participate and contribute on social media because it's not a space of conscious partnership. And so if you don't know if have the ability to be in conscious partnership, one of the clues to you is you cannot discuss any topic with somebody that you have a difference of belief or difference of opinion on, then you're not engaged in conscious partnership. You should be able to, and I love the word that Leela used, speak it kindly and be able to hear the other person kindly. And maybe they will say something that will allow you to shift your perspective. And maybe you will say something that will allow them to shift their perspective. But the circle is whole and it includes everyone and everything. And to say, I cannot talk to you about this because you believe differently than me. And I just had this experience and I was wondering whether or not I would share it. And so the opening is here. I was just contacted by a dear friend from high school that I haven't seen in years. And we spent an entire evening catching up and reconnecting, and it was lovely. And then at the end, this person said, well, I can see that you are probably in favor of the candidate that I'm not in favor of. And so I cannot talk to you until after the inauguration because I've lost so many friends over this issue, which is sad for me. And it shows me that this person doesn't understand or have the skills to be in conscious partnership, conscious relationship. And so if you're losing friends over a difference of opinion, that's a clue to you that you're not being in conscious relationship with each other.
Yes. Thank you.
Wanda, how would you like to speak to this? Okay. Oh, here you are.
I have trouble unmuting sometimes.
Okay.
Let's see. Sometimes I feel like I have clear understanding of my boundaries, and sometimes I can speak up and do it kindly. Other times I found that because that was not anything we learned in my childhood or throughout most of my life, um, it brings up a lot of confusion for me. It seems to take me a long time to think about the situation and what's appropriate for me and what isn't. I certainly grew up in a household where we didn't talk or communicate about anything. There was just basically screaming or hitting and, criticizing. So I never really learned how to speak my, and I think that's one of the things I'm making an effort to do is how do I speak my truth and not I don't know, go into those unhealthy realms. So yeah, sometimes it's just a jumbled mess, and then other times it feels like it's kind of clear. But I'm just happy that at least I'm working on them and trying to have an understanding around them. So, and all I see on the screen are you guys, and this Zoom is expanding your reach. So I don't know what happened to my screen. A call came in. I don't know if I need to go out and come back in because you're
Um,
showing. Do I need to do that? Go out
Why
and
don't
come.
you do that? Because I'd love for you to be able to see everything that's
Okay.
happening here.
All right. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
Let's see if I can figure out how to get out.
Okay.
Do you have a problem with your camera as well, or is that like an ongoing thing, Wanda?
No, I choose to not have my.
Okay, perfect. Yeah,
Yeah,
because I sometimes my camera doesn't work and I have to like restart my computer. So I just wanted to to offer that.
thanks. Okay, I'll see you guys in a minute. Oh,
Okay. Okay. And I love what Wanda was saying about not learning in our childhood homes how to communicate with others in a healthy way. I know in my house that I grew up with, there was, of course, we're Sicilian, so there's a lot of loud stuff, and people can misinterpret the loudness as yelling. I, because of my hearing condition, was able to discern through tones the difference between what was just, being Sicilian and what was really, the yelling and the screaming. And so, many adults our age haven't been taught those skills. They haven't had those skills modeled to them. And so they're learning for the first time how to speak with kind words and still speak the convictions of their truth. That's a fine balancing act. What would you have to say around that, Leila?
Yeah, I agree. The fine balancing act. It's it's amazing how much is stored in from childhood, and that we don't always have the conscious knowing of until it becomes aware. Like, sometimes we carry it until, we start to realize how much it actually is playing in our lives.
Right.
And I'm really grateful for, to have the awareness over many years of really starting to understand how some of those wounded places, um, they have this tendency to, run our lives. And so it's like finding that integration piece so that there is like a conscious knowing of, oh, okay, this feeling of not good enough, or this feeling of not feeling like I belong, or whatever that is, to be able to hold that little girl in that. And then it becomes a lot. It's just not charged anymore, you know what? It's just like it comes up, and it's like you witness it, and it's like, oh, okay, that's coming up. But just to know the conscious self, that's not true, and yet it is a part of like the whole of the human experience.
Exactly. Very, very, very well put. I know for myself in that situation, um, is that I actually had a girlfriend once say to me when we were discussing something, you can give yourself permission to take a pause.
Mm,
That was so liberating for me because in our household, everything was so immediate. When I ask you to do something, I mean now. Don't ask how high to jump, and so I was always in this very kind of reactive space. And to have
hmm
permission to just take the pause feel into what's going on inside of me, feel into what I'm thinking about that and what I want to say about that before I speak it or respond was very empowering for me. And I practice that as much as I can consciously in my day-to-day life. I feel like it's helped me tremendously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that space of responding versus reacting. You know, it's just so powerful.
Yeah. Wanda, is there anything else you wanted to contribute around what you were saying before you popped out?
Maybe we're having some Mercury in retrograde issues today.
Okay. Well, please know that you can always share it later, and I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next section.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. In the heavens. So, since our last gate activation, a couple of things have happened. Woohoo! Pluto went direct on October 5th. And that's really huge because Pluto had been retrograde since April. So, and it won't be until almost the end of January next year that Pluto reaches that place in the sky where he was when he went retrograde. So we're still what we call like in the window or the shadow of that retrograde period. But at least things now are starting to move along and it's not feeling like, you know, we're the tar baby stuck in the tar. Of course, Mars, the sacred masculine, is retrograde and he will station direct next month. And this is happening within days of the next gate activation, which will be the solar plexus activation. Now this is the big deal, Mercury. So this heart chakra gate activation happened on October 13th. Mercury stationed direct in Scorpio on October 13th. And the new sacred masculine Aries archetype was birthed on October 13th. All three of these events happened on the same day. And so this Mercury energy is just saturated both the birth of the new sacred masculine archetype and it's saturating this heart gate activation. And of course, as a Venus overtone in Scorpio, I'm reveling in this. How about you, Maureen? You have a Venus overtone in Scorpio too. I think she's still popping in and out. Okay, and we've got Uranus still retrograde and Neptune still retrograde. Uranus retrograde in Taurus, Neptune retrograde in Pisces. So, and then all of these retrograde energies are really calling us to that inward space that is the space of the Scorpio energies, diving deep into all of the energies, the feelings, the wounded spaces within us. So we've actually, for most of this year, have had at any one given time 4 or 5 planets in retrograde. And so this entire year is a year of turning within and really discovering who it is that we're evolving into, that we're transmuting into, that we're transforming into. And of course, we're seeing that on the world stage through the shutdown or the lockdown that was initiated back in March. Very much an effect of all of these retrograde energies. Pretty soon we'll be coming out of that. Let's see. The last one, Uranus turns direct next May. Neptune turns direct next March. Isn't that interesting? March. So from March of this year to March of next year, I think there's something there that's significant. And this month, on the 16th, we had the new moon in Libra. You're going to see how significant that placement is. You'll notice here, 25 degrees for the new moon, 25 degrees. Oh my goodness. Is that like within a minute of each other where Mercury goes direct? And that's happening on election day. Mercury turns direct on election day, November 3rd. And then the full moon will be on what people call Halloween. It's also a cross-quarter date, Samhain, at 8 degrees Taurus. And you'll see that it's going to be conjunct Uranus in the sky. So there's a lot going on in the sky right now. Is there anything anybody would like to share about this? Any ahas coming up for you? Okay. So here we are at the fourth gate that Inanna is passing through on her way down into the underworld. And it's called the Gate of Compassion. And at each gate, she has to give away one of her royal vestments. And at this particular gate, the vestment that she is removing and giving away is her breastplate. And you're going to see something later on that's going to blow your mind, I hope, because it blew my mind, that ties into this idea of having to remove your breastplate at this gate. So Inanna loses her breastplate, and this breastplate is a symbol of the surrender that she is making in terms of being disconnected from her emotional heart. Really just feel into that disconnection from your emotional heart and surrendering into that disconnection. That can be very, very painful. It is also a releasing of all of the ways that she no longer truly loves herself. And that's a big piece of the heart chakra. What are the ways in which you love yourself, or in this instance, are not loving yourself? And so what are the shadow pieces there that are keeping you from loving those pieces of yourself? Those may be coming up. And if you'll recall in previous conversations that we've had before this class, excuse me, I spoke to you about the incident that I had on October 13th when this activation took place. And I told you what that made very clear for me about this heart gate activation is that it's an opportunity to look at our heart wounds. And so those heart wounds can be the places in which we are not allowing ourselves to love ourselves as well. As a result, they may be the cause of the wound, or it might be a result of the wound, that in those spaces we're not loving ourselves. The breastplate, also known as the chest plate, is a device worn over the torso as an item of religious significance or as an item of status. And we're going to see later where this religious significance comes in. And like I said, I wasn't looking for it. It just popped up in my face and it blew my mind. So I'm really excited to show you that piece. Now, a breastplate or breastpiece was among the clothes of the Jewish high priest. And in the Bible, the word breastplate is used figuratively to describe protecting oneself from unrighteousness. And what's interesting here is the second piece of the armor of God that Paul discusses in Ephesians is the breastplate of righteousness. A breastplate is sometimes worn by mythological beings as a distinctive item of clothing, Both Zeus and Athena are sometimes depicted as wearing a goatskin shield or breastplate. At the center of Athena's shield was the head of Medusa. Does anybody have anything to share around this gate of compassion and giving up your breastplate? Have you had any experiences so far within this gate where you've felt like you've had to give up your breastplate? Okay, so I'm going to pause. Go ahead.
Giving up a breastplate, I've never done it. I've never surrendered to it because to me it's protection. And that's probably shadow expression of the breastplate. But that is where I am at this moment. Yeah.
So Maureen, that's interesting to hear you say that because, you know, at this gate, we are being required to let it go. And so I can feel that there's a lot of resistance to surrendering it. And so I understand why you may not choose to give up your breastplate. But in these moments where we know the cosmic forces have their way with us, how are you experiencing the fact that that breastplate is being removed?
I'm just resisting it. I don't want to. I really don't, because I'll be vulnerable and I don't like that. So yeah, it's a problem I better work through while I'm here at this gate if I want to go on. And I do.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll put that into my first step of alchemy, which is let's see, the first step is calcination, which is the burning of the dross. So that's where I'll put it.
You know, I have to say that I honor you for your courage to be willing to do that. It takes a lot of courage to step into something like this when you have the awareness heightening that this is a place that you do not want to go because dragons lie there.
Yes. Yes. I'll use my crystal to help me.
Yeah,
My dragon.
yeah, yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, and the dragon has the fire to do it.
Yes, it
You know,
does.
they have the fire to burn the dross.
Right, right. And, you know, with Mercury being retrograde in Scorpio, call on Mercury to share whatever that message is around that piece that you're ready to hear now.
Okay, thank you. I will.
Good, good. Wanda, how about you? Are you having any experiences with having to reluctantly let go of, surrender the breastplate at this gate?
Well, I would say that I've been having a lot of things coming up for me, and I'm quiet because I'm just not, I just don't know what to say. Um, I think that even today's action of showing up for the class was a growth in doing something that before I would have not participated in, and I would have gone to the beach and ignored everything. So I would say I was very vulnerable today.
You know, that's an excellent analogy to say, you know, I took off the breastplate and I showed up for this gate. I showed up for this class. I'm passing through this gate. And I was only able to do it because I chose to go ahead and surrender my breastplate.
Thank you.
How
Thank
does
you.
that,
It makes me feel a lot better about it. Thank you. That feels quite honoring, actually.
Good.
Thank you.
Sure, sure. And thank you for your courage. Um, it's tremendous to see the kind of courage that's been demonstrated in this journey.
It does take courage. You're right.
Mhm.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Hey, Leela, what's going on over there with you and your breastplate?
Well, just reflecting on it feels that it's a continuous journey of taking it off and putting it back on. And not just in this gate, but I'm just sort of seeing that where at times it feels really comfortable to be really open and vulnerable, and other times I feel like I need protection. Um, the last, I guess, since the gate activation, it's been really intense. It's been an intense time. Um, there was an accident involving a little girl that lives here on the land, and she was really injured. She ended up being okay, but she had a tree fall on her, and so there was like just like my heart. Like I've been having a lot of grieving. Another dear friend of mine's wife just passed, and there's been a lot going on. I had a cold, and there was a lot coming up through my own lungs, which is that connection, the lungs being a connection to the heart, and a lot of just letting go. And this past week, I had many offerings that I was doing, and yesterday I was showing up in the dance work that I do, and I just felt like this new capacity in my heart that, something had been, like a letting go had happened, where I just felt so full and like so much love, and the capacity to be able to receive love and to be able to give love was larger than it had been in a while, and it just felt really good to just notice that and be in that place. Yeah, after a lot of letting go.
Yes. I love how you're speaking to that, because in this heart chakra, that is one of the things that we can palpably experience when we look at these heart wounds and we allow them the space to be seen and acknowledged, because then in that space, the love rushes in, and feeling it and being aware of it the way that you did in that moment is one of the glorious um, experiences of working with the heart chakra.
Mm. Hmm. And in the dance work that I do, it actually is a chakra. One of the dance works I do a couple different kinds, but it's a chakra journey. And so we just started this past week with the root chakra. So I'm on this secondary kind of chakra journey again, and just remembering the wisdom that's encoded in the chakras and these energy centers on an emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual layer. And it's just like coming back into that. It's been really profound for me again, and being able to share that with others has been, yeah, just like, oh, I feel like I'm in alignment with what I'm here to do. And so my heart then expands because of that service.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. I understand that feeling. Yeah. Wanda, Maureen, is there anything either you'd like to say around anything that anyone has shared? Okay, let's move on. Here we are at the heart chakra, the seat of the soul. Now, Gary Zukov is known for authoring that book titled The Seat of the Soul. Um, However, the heart chakra is actually the seat of the soul. When we think about our inner feminine and we think about our inner masculine, it's in the heart chakra that we envision them sitting on their thrones. Uh, and when we embody new archetypes, it's in our heart chakra that we envision those embodiments, that seeding and that taking root, the starting place for all of that. And I know for myself that, uh, anytime that I'm getting ready to take a drive somewhere, I will speak out loud, may the Ganesha within me go ahead of me and clear the way of all obstacles and challenges. So all of the divine aspects of ourselves are here within our heart center. And so Gayatri, whom we invoked, she also resides within you. And so may the Gayatri within me be present through this class. And any other aspect that you are working with in terms of the divine or any other aspect of your multidimensional self, you can call on that piece within your heart to show up in your external landscape and engage with your external landscape. So that's one of the powers of dealing with this heart chakra. Now, the heart chakra is the central powerhouse of our subtle bodies. It is where we receive the energy from others, where we receive energy from source. And when we receive it, we feel it. This is where the word feeling is coming from, because we actually have that physical manifestation in this center of the receiving of those, the frequencies of those energies. When we say, I get a bad feeling about that person, it's because your heart intelligence has received something and is communicating a message to you. It's also where we broadcast our frequency out to others and into the collective consciousness of humanity. This is why they tell people that within the first 30 seconds of meeting somebody, they've already decided whether they like you or they don't like you, because we're broadcasting, from our heart center. This is where we also consciously engage with our emotional guidance system. And we talked about some of this in the Sacred Masculine class. We're going to talk about it more here today in this class. And that's because you engage your emotional guidance system through the feelings of those emotions. If you can't feel it, you cannot discern which emotion you're dealing with. This is where we connect with every multi-dimensional aspect of ourselves. Oops, sorry. All right. The heart is the mediator between body and spirit, and it directly determines the strength and the health of the body and the spirit. The heart chakra deals with unconditional love and emotional power. And so when we have these heart wounds, which are often emotional wounds, the power that has been given away is emotional power. And so when we reclaim those spaces, we reclaim that emotional power. The heart embodies a gentle wisdom that teaches us the ways of love and compassion. And of course, that's why this gate is called the Gate of Compassion. The heart chakra is the center of childlike innocence and joy, and it evokes our capacity to love and let go, to accept our emotional challenges, and surrender to a divine plan. Is there anything anybody would like to share about the heart chakra and what goes on there? I love what Leela mentioned earlier about the lungs being connected to this heart chakra. And so if you're having some heart chakra issues, you may find that you're got something in your lungs where you're coughing or feeling congested. Okay.
So I wanted to address the very last point made here, to invoke our capacity to love and let go, and to accept our emotional challenges and surrender to a divine plan. Is that saying when we're having an emotional challenge, instead of, that's where there's confusion for me. If I'm having an emotional challenge and I'm wanting to address something that's coming up for me, how is that setting a boundary and stating what your truth is and letting it go? That's all very confusing for me.
Okay. Thank you for that question. That's a great question. So from my own experience, this is what I have discovered. I have discovered that when I'm having an emotional challenge, it is not the time for me to try to speak to it, because as many people have experienced, I'm sure, they either say something or do something they regret. But more than that, you're not speaking and communicating from an empowered place. Remember, an emotional challenge is when you're in a disempowered space. So to honor yourself and the fullness of who you are, that is a boundary that you can choose to set for yourself, that I will speak around this when I am feeling more uplifted and have more clarity around what this emotional challenge was offering me to recognize. And so when we do that, that's part of that surrendering. And it's also part of working your way up the emotional guidance system, because as you're working up the emotional guidance system, your frequency is rising higher and higher and higher and becoming more and more aligned with your inner being. And so being able to handle that from an empowered place is what affects the capacity to let it go. Does that make sense to you, Wanda?
Oh, yeah, completely. But what I noticed for me is, well, I'll talk about it on our individual session. Thank you.
Okay.
That explains it very well.
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share around this? Okay, so I'm just going to remind all of you that this is a collaborative space. So the more verbal engagement that we can get in each section, the better, because otherwise I feel like I'm talking to myself. And so everybody that's contributed so far, thank you so much. It's so valuable. And I'm inviting more collaboration, okay?
Okay.
Thanks, Wanda, for that. I
Yes.
appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's look at consciously engaging our emotional guidance scale, and just letting Leela know, in case she's not aware, and reminding Wanda and Maureen, because we talked about this in the Sacred Masculine class, this emotional guidance scale comes straight out of the Abraham Hicks material around the law of attraction. This reminds me that if you've seen the Sacred Masculine class, I mentioned the law of abundance a couple of times. And actually what I was intending to say is the law of attraction. So if I say the law of abundance, please correct me. I don't know where that was coming from. So you can utilize meditation, the dream time, vision questing, whatever, what dancing. I know sacred dancing is really a medium that Leela works in. You can use these different mediums of accessing the other realms to become clear on what it is you desire. And you can choose the specific evidence you desire to see and experience. So for instance, just to kind of put a framework around this, if what you're seeing and experiencing is there's all this polarization around this election, then you can choose what it is that you desire to see. I desire to see more unity consciousness. I desire to see more sacred relationship. And so you can choose specifically, I would like to see and experience more unity consciousness in the world, as an example. Once you've chosen what it is that you specifically want to see and experience the evidence of, then you focus on that. I'm focusing every day when I drive out of my house and through the community and walking into the grocery store and pumping my gas and sitting in the doctor's office, wherever it may be, I am consciously looking for evidence of unity consciousness in everything that's showing up around me. And you can make that focus a part of your daily sadhana, which is spiritual practice. And you can say, every day I go out, I'm going to look for this for the next month or the next 2 weeks, whatever it is. And you focus on seeing that. And as you do that practice, you will prove to yourself that you can evoke that evidence of your desire from the cosmos. Maybe it's, I just want to see more joyful play in the world. And that's your focus. And every time you go out, that's what you're looking for. And it will show up. It has to, because that's what you're focused on. And that's what you are attracting back to you. And what's fabulous about this process is that it builds your belief. It builds your belief that one, you do have the power to create your own reality, and two, that whatever you desire, you can have. And in the process, it also uplifts your frequency. And that frequency that you're being uplifted into is now the frequency that you are broadcasting out into the world and into the collective consciousness of humanity. And it's by broadcasting that out that you are now attracting back more of the same. Because remember, we are electromagnetic beings, and our heart chakras are very, very magnetic. So we can attract whatever it is that we are broadcasting and focusing on. And that is the process that helps you move up this emotional guidance scale. Now, I mentioned before, and I shared with each of you this little video here from Abraham Hicks. It's on YouTube now. It's a fabulous video. She gives an excellent explanation of using this emotional guidance system. And if you haven't watched it yet, Wanda, getting back to that question that you had previously about these emotional challenges and knowing what to do with them and how to let go of them, I promise you, if you listen to this video and you use it with this emotional guidance scale, and you use this exercise that I've given over here in addition to it, you are going to know that you can handle any emotional challenge that comes your way. It's not going to derail you. It's not disempowering you. It's empowering you, and you'll understand how it's empowering you.
Well, I know you've helped me with that in the past when I've had some severe issues around a relationship. And when I did work them, they really worked really well. But I tend to forget them and be involved in life. So thank you for the reminder.
Right, right. And that's the beauty of sadhana, of spiritual practice, because we're incorporating that into our daily life. And then it becomes second nature to be doing that in our daily life. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share around this? How about you, Leela?
Yeah, I was just reflecting on what's been really potent of late for me was this realization I had, just like I was talking about before, the sadness and this grief. But in this allowing of the sadness and the grief, I realized that there was also joy, that those two could exist simultaneously, that I didn't have to choose one or the other, that they could all exist together. And there was a beauty in that awareness that I could allow what was coming up to be expressed and to know that that would move through. And at the end of that was my constant state, which actually is joy. You know, like that's what I connect with, is this state of joy as being my natural state. And so to know that my natural state is never changing, there's just these overlays that are happening and that are moving through. And it's like I knew that, but there was this new embodied understanding in my body of like, oh yes, all of this existing, because I think like you mentioned it before, this polarity, this duality that we exist in, and that sometimes we feel like we have to be this or that. And I'm like, what if we can be all of it?
Exactly. That's what I've been saying all along. You can be all of it. And
Exactly.
you can be all of it when you no longer judge it, when you
Mhm.
no longer label it, when you no longer disallow it,
Mhm.
giving
Totally.
it the space to show up.
Yeah.
And the other thing I love that you said about the grief and the joy being present simultaneously. This is an analogy that Abraham Hicks uses, and they talk about these sticks on any topic. Whenever you pick up that topic, you're picking up the stick, and it's the stick of what's wanted and what's not wanted. And so joy and grief are on the same stick. And that's
Mhm.
why you're having this awareness of them being there.
Mm.
And so you can shift very easily up the vibrational scale to joy because it's the same stick where the
Mhm.
grief is on the other side.
Mhm.
The other way that you can approach it is I'm feeling all of this grief. I'm seeing a lot of things in the world where people are grieving. I'd like to see more evidence of joy.
Mhm.
And then look for the evidence of the joy. And it may show up with a flock of birds that are sitting in the field, and all of a sudden they take off and flight together. And it's like, whoa, look at that.
Mhm.
That's a manifestation of joy.
Mhm.
And so this is the beauty of this work, which I love. It's so helpful with dealing with the shadow pieces in a very, very conscious way.
Mm. Yeah. I think what that reminder as well for me is just like what you've really reflected to me in our sessions together is being the compassionate heart, and how that being like my actual nature, that when I know that I'm in alignment, it's like how I interact with life is from that place of being this compassionate heart in all areas of my life,
Right.
and just letting that be my guide and knowing from that place that I'm in alignment. And so much of it for me is around like being in the alignment of being open to all of life.
Right. And you're open to all of life when your heart chakra is open.
Exactly.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. How about you, Maureen?
Sorry, my husband just walked through. Um, and I'm dealing with that right now.
I understand
That's
that.
why I don't take off my breastplate. He's not a mean man. I don't mean to talk to let anybody know that he's not mean. He just doesn't believe as I believe, and he doesn't respect it. And so he interrupts a lot when I'm in class, and Sophia Mona Lisa has witnessed this time and time again. So it's never as important as what he is doing. He doesn't mean for that, but it just is. At least that's the way I'm perceiving it. So it's a difficult time. So I miss some stuff. Sorry.
Okay. That's okay, honey. I understand. I understand. And I can feel the frustration.
Yeah.
You know. So maybe later you can dive back into the frustration that you're feeling, and with this video, work your way up from frustration to pessimism to boredom to contentment to hopefulness. And if you're able to get your way up to that hopefulness and stay stable in that hopefulness, we may see that behavior changes and or discontinues altogether.
Okay, that would be wonderful. I can already tell that getting past contentment is a major issue.
Right. Because we
Thank you.
remember, we attract everything, every experience that we're having. And this is a pattern that you keep attracting. And it's very likely related to whatever reasons are going on for why you're unwilling to give up your breastplate. So this is a
Yeah.
beautiful opportunity to practice moving up the emotional guidance scale to help shift that for you. And in the shifting, you may not feel so vulnerable and may be more willing to let go of the breastplate on the inner, and on the outer, you may see that manifestation as him not interrupting you anymore.
That would be wonderful. Yeah.
Possibility is there.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you.
You're
That's
welcome.
good.
Yes. Remember that all of this emotional guidance system work is all a part of the Cancer energies, right? It's in Cancer that we create the safe space. It's in Cancer that we emotionally nurture and nourish ourselves and others. It's in Cancer that we look to the Great Mother to model to us how to do that. So this is very much Cancer energy work right here.
Hey, girls.
Thank you.
And we know that Leela and Wanda have their Venus overtone in Cancer. They should be masters at this.
Mm.
I thought mine was in Leo.
Mm.
Your overtone, not your inner feminine, but your overtone.
What's the difference between the overtone and the inner feminine? I feel like I'm confused all of a sudden.
Good question. That's okay. So your inner feminine is related to the placement in your natal chart of where
Oh,
Venus
yeah.
you were born. Oh,
That's
Did I-
that's me. Yeah, that's the
that's
right.
you. Did I
Yeah.
get it wrong? Is your
My overtone's Leo, but my natal Cancer is my natal Venus is Cancer.
okay? I got them confused.
Oh, that's okay.
You're right. You're right.
Sun, Moon, Venus, and Cancer.
That's right. Conjunct.
Yeah. Born in the underworld. And when Venus is in underworld.
So this should be second nature to you then. And Wanda, I think your Venus overtone, did I get them confused? Is it your inner feminine or your Venus overtone that's in Cancer? I know one of them is.
I don't remember right now. I think my Venus is in Cancer, but could you explain what the overtone is?
Yes. So just like we are now in this Gemini archetype of this Venus synodic cycle that lasts 19 months. When you were born at a time that was within the 19-month synodic cycle of Venus in a particular archetype. And whatever the archetype she was in at the time of your birth that fell within those 19 months, that's your Venus overtone. And that archetype informs how your inner feminine relates and expresses itself in the world. So Maureen and I are the same. We were both born with our Venus in Sagittarius. So our inner feminine is Sagittarius. We were both born when Venus was in the Scorpio archetype. That synodic cycle was in the Scorpio archetype. So we both have a Scorpio overtone that informs our Sagittarius inner feminine. Now think about this. Scorpio's water, Sagittarius is fire. And what can happen, speaking of polarities, when water and fire come together?
Steam.
Steam. So I have had many experiences where people have experienced me as the dragon, right? The fire breather with steam coming out of its nostrils.
That's me too. I'm all fire and water.
Fire and
So,
water.
Yep. That's actually so fascinating because I just realized that my overtone is the same as my rising sign and my inner feminine is the same as my moon sign. And so it's like it's actually magnetized in that way of like that inner part of me really is that Cancerian soft kind of thing, but that Leo, that fire is like what I'm projecting into the world. And I actually happen to be a fire dragon in the Chinese astrology.
Wow. And I was sharing with Maureen previously that during my shamanic priestess process, I really connected with my dragon energy, because not only do I have my inner feminine as a fire element, Sagittarius, but my inner masculine is a fire element, Leo. So I was really connecting with my dragon energy during the shamanic process. And now recently, Maureen's telling me that she is at this stage where she's starting to connect with her dragon energy too.
Mhm, mhm.
And that dragon
Yes.
energy was very much a part of the sacred masculine birth of the new Aries archetype. Is there anything you'd like to share around that, Maureen? Your dragon energy connections?
You know, it's so new to me that I don't know. Okay. It's so new to me that I really don't know much about how it expresses in my life, whether it's air, water, fire, whatever. I'm not real sure about that yet. I just know that it showed up um, in my life as an interest around, particularly around the when the the meteor shower. What
Yeah,
is that? The
Draco
Draconid?
meteor. Mhm.
Yeah, the meteor shower from that from that constellation in the sky. And so that's when I became aware that it is coming alive within me. I'm just not sure exactly how, and I was guided to buy a, a dragon crystal. It's actually a tiger's eye. Um, and so I'm getting to know it. It's kind of communicating to me where that dragon is,
Right,
how that energy works with
right,
me. So it's really new. It's really
right.
new.
Well, and I have to tell you, it's no surprise to me that you connected with that dragon energy during the Draconid meteor shower, not
Mhm.
only because Draco is the dragon, but also because that Draconid meteor shower was happening during the second Mars square to Pluto this year. And of course, Pluto
Okay.
is the ruler of your chart. She's got a Scorpio ascendant. Pluto is the ruler of your chart. Well, what is your ascendant on? Your first house, your self identity, getting to know yourself as a part of that dragon energy.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Heart chakra. So, with our heart chakra, we connect with others heart to heart. We're broadcasting and receiving heart to others. And let's remember that the sun is the heart of our solar system. And let's remember that the galactic center is the heart of our Milky Way galaxy. And so you can consciously connect your heart to the sun, your heart to the galactic center, and communicate in this way. Now, the heart center is very much associated with the Leo energy, the compassionate heart. And the sun is the planet that tells us what fuels us and how we are fueled. And so you can use the placement of the sun in your chart to figure out back here when we talked about, what is it that you desire? This is another tool. Meditation, dream time, vision questing. Astrology is another tool that you can use to become clear on what is it that you desire, because what fuels you and what you feel fueled by is a desire. And so to do that, all you have to do is look at which astrological sign in your natal is the sun, your natal sun located in? Which astrological house is your natal sun located in? And then you can use the keywords that we've been learning about the sign that it's in and the house that it's in to blend them together, kind of like watercolors. Take the energies of them, blend them together, and find out what is it that is my desire. So I've kind of used myself here as an example of this. My sun is conjunct Sekhmet and Asmodeus in Capricorn in the 7th house. Now, I could go into the Sekhmet and Asmodeus stuff as a deeper layer to get even more information, but for right now, I'm going to look at my sun in Capricorn in the 7th house. Okay, Capricorn keywords, 7th house keywords. How do we find 7th house keywords? We know that the 7th house is ruled by Libra, so keywords around Libra. We know that Libra is ruled by Venus, so keywords around Venus. We know that Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, keywords around Saturn. So I can pull the keywords from Capricorn, Saturn, Libra, Venus, and I can play with them like crayons in a coloring in a crayon box, paints on a palette, and I can blend those energies together and I can come up with a desire that I resonate with. And so, for instance, I am fueled, right? That represents the sun. I am fueled by relationships, 7th house, grounded. Capricorn is an earth energy in sovereignty and equity. Sovereignty and equity are good Capricorn Saturn words. Being a part of a tribe, Capricorn, of way showers, Capricorn, fuels me. That's the sun. Gaining wisdom, Capricorn, from illuminating, there's the sun, my own relationship, that is Libra, and demons fuels me, the sun. So these are things that I can choose to look for in life. I choose to see the evidence of cooperation, that's Libra, 7th house, in partnerships, 7th house. I choose to experience patience and mastery, Capricorn, in my sacred work, Capricorn. You see how I'm doing that here? And so if you don't have a starting place of what it, do you know how many people do not even know what they desire? I spent a huge part of my my life not knowing what it was to nurture myself. And I'm a Cancer ascendant. This idea of nurture was so foreign to me. What could I do to nurture myself? It was such a huge aha when I thought, ooh, taking a bubble bath nurtures me. So many people don't know what it is that they desire. And it's kind of like the ship that leaves port. If you don't know that you're leaving France and you're going to end up in Cuba, because that's where you're going, you may end up in Nova Scotia. You've got to know what your desires are so that you can express the fullness of why it is that you came here. What is that sole purpose? People don't know what their sole purpose is because they have no clue what their desires are. What fuels them? They don't know. And now you can know. And when you look for the evidence of that, what's going to happen? You're going to be up here feeling good. You're going to be aligned with who you are at the soul level with your inner being. And you're going to feel happy and you're going to feel eager and you're going to feel passionate and joyful. And that's why I'm spending so much time on this here at the Heart Chakra Center, because this is important. So let's look at you Gaias and see what fuels you. And this chart is built on this information right here. Okay. So Leela's sun is in Cancer. Maureen's is in Capricorn like mine. And Wanda's is in Taurus. So Leela, you know that the planetary ruler of Cancer is the moon. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. Wanda, in case you didn't know, Venus is the ruler of Taurus. Now, what house is your sun in? Leela, yours is in the 11th house. Maureen's is in the 3rd house. Wanda's is in the 4th house. Remember, mine was in the 7th house. So who rules the 11th house, Leela? Aquarius and Uranus. Who rules the 3rd house, Maureen? Gemini and Mercury. And Wanda, 4th house rulers, Cancer and Moon. So all you have to do, using the work that we've already been doing in these first 3 classes in terms of finding keywords for these energies, find the keyword, Cancer, Moon, Aquarius, Uranus. Blend them together, have fun with it, make it a play. Maureen, Capricorn, Saturn, Gemini, and Mercury. Find those keywords. I know you guys already know several keywords for these energies. Wanda, Taurus, Venus, Cancer, and Moon. Pick up on your keywords. We've spent a lot of time on that. I've given lots of examples on that. You guys have been working with this and have been doing a really good job working on it. And so in terms of these energies, just what comes to mind? Doesn't have to be profound, just something simple. What comes to mind that fuels you? Does anybody want to go first? Maureen, I'm going to call on you. You know how it is. If you don't raise your hand, you get called on.
I don't know. Capricorn. And that is, that's ruled by Saturn in the 3rd house.
Oh, you know what? Pardon me for interrupting you. Duh.
Please, I don't know.
I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to go back and fix this slide because I forgot a key element. Duh. Okay, 11th house. What is the 11th house about? It's about the collective consciousness of humanity. It's about the ways in which we serve, you know, in a global way through social media, right? 3rd house, what does that have to do with? It has to do with the way that you are in your local community, how you connect with your local community. Also, if you have siblings, people that are like your siblings, so like your priestess sisters. Wanda, 4th house. 4th house has to do with your home, your safe space. And so I apologize profoundly for forgetting to put those elements in there. And it came to me just now when I was talking to you here about 7th house being the house of relationships down here that I was talking about. I deeply apologize. I will correct that. So that gives you the framework. That gives you the starting point. So you know that your desires have to do, Leela, with, you know, being on that global stage, working with the collective consciousness of humanity, having to do with the freedom and liberation of humanity. Maureen, yours are going to be in the realm of dealing with your local community. Now, this is the thing about the local community. What is local to you? Is it right there at quote unquote, maybe a church you go to? Is it has to do with your sister tribe that's around the globe? Does it have to do with the Magdalene community, which may be centered in France? I mean, these are just different ideas of what may be considered a local community for you and how you communicate with them. Okay, communicate, that's the Gemini there. Okay. Wanda, 4th house. Your realm is going to be around the home, What feels like a home to you? What feels like a safe space to you? What feels emotionally nurturing to you? Those are the places where you're going to be able to identify your your desires and how they fuel you. For me, it's in the seventh house. What fuels me is being in relationship. Seventh house. What kinds of relationships fuel me? Those that are, uh, conscious, equal partnerships, because people that are in conscious, equal partnership generally have some kind of mastery and wisdom in their life. Those are the things that fuel me. Does that help clarify that? I'm very apologetic for forgetting to put that piece in.
Yes, it does qualify. It helps a lot. It's what I'm trying to say is that this stuff um, is like a foreign language to me.
Yes, it is.
It is a foreign language, and I've been studying with shamanic astrology for quite a few years, and I still don't understand the language. So how they work together. And the keywords that you are teaching us is a brand new way for me to look at it, and it's a big, big help. It helps so much
And you
because otherwise
know,
I could not see how it went together.
right. And so let me give you an example, Maureen, just to kind of throw out a jumping off place. So we know that Capricorn and Saturn has to do with wisdom. It has to do with mastery. It has to do with being a way shower and an elder. It has to do with the way that you manifest things. And Gemini and Mercury, that's all about communication. So third house is your local community, who you consider to be your siblings. So you could say, what fuels me is communicating, sharing my sacred work, right? Capricorn is the workhorse and mundane astrology with my priestess sisters. That's a simple statement that incorporates the third house, Gemini, Mercury, and Capricorn. You see how I put that together? Can you turn on your microphone for me, honey?
Yes, I see how that would work together, and yes.
And so does that or does it not resonate with you? It may or may not, but it could be a jumping off place.
Well, no, that resonates a lot because I don't have a community like that here in my my area. There is no, I'm the only one uh, that believes like I do in my circle. So it would definitely be my priestess sisters and my relationship with the Magdalene and other goddesses that have come forth. Um, that's my community.
And
Yes.
you have another community that you referred to earlier. Your
Family.
Facebook groups. Your Facebook groups. You
Right.
said, I'm trying to figure out
Yes.
what my role is in these Facebook groups that I'm a part of. They are a kind of community. And so, could you be fulfilled? Could it fuel you to share your sacred work, your wisdom with that community? And certainly typing on in a Facebook group is a kind of communication that falls under Gemini and Mercury. Gemini, we know, is the creative muse. How creative could you get in sharing your wisdom around your sacred work with that part of your community? And would it fuel you?
Yes, I believe it would. Now, another thing about that always concerns me is that my Mercury is also in Capricorn, and it's easy for me to get into the building mode when I'm communicating. In other words, too much information.
Right.
And so I have to be really careful because I can monopolize without even meaning to in a group if I get on a roll, so.
I hear you. So if you think
Yeah.
about Capricorn as which mountain are you going to climb in this discussion, right? You don't have to climb the
Yeah.
whole mountain. Maybe you want to just get to the first campground, right? In that conversation, right?
Yes. Yes.
You can take it in pieces.
Exactly. And yeah, take it in pieces when I want to see the whole building right there. I want
Right.
to, start in the basement, go to the top. And if you don't know all the steps in between, then you have no idea what I'm talking about.
Right.
And so
Right. Because
that's
Capricorn
how,
always wants to get to the top of the next mountain. Ta-da!
oh yeah.
That's
And they want you to know how they did it.
and they want you to know how they did it. Exactly. Exactly. And so knowing that, Maureen, you can gauge how much delivery you are offering each time so that
Yeah.
you are not throwing a boulder down on them, but you're helping them climb that mountain with you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes.
Beautiful. Leela, anything going on over there?
This is what I came up with on my first try. Um, I am fueled by my connection to the Divine Mother, nurturing and serving the global sisterhood and collective awakening of humanity.
Beautiful. Now, I heard all of the key words. Will you please share with Wanda and Maureen which words you used and whether they associate to Cancer, Moon, 11th house, Aquarius, or Uranus?
Sure. So, um, I feel like the connection piece actually is both for me. It's like the connection like through Cancer, but also through that 11th house piece.
It
And
is.
then the Divine Mother being the connection to Cancer and the moon. And nurturing also being that Cancerian energy. And the serving of the global sisterhood, which is that Aquarius 11th house. And yeah, bringing in that connection with the sisterhood, with the Divine Mother, I feel like that's part of my path here, and the collective awakening of humanity, which is that Aquarius 11th house Uranus energy.
Yes, it is. That is, and feel the power in that.
It feels really powerful. I'm like, really? Okay, that's a lot of shoes
Yeah.
to fill.
Yes. Yes. But
Yeah.
that's the power of the sun, and that's the power of your heart chakra. And we can feel that energy coming through.
Mm-hmm.
Can you feel that, Wanda? Maureen, how about you? Can you feel that?
Yes, absolutely. Did I, okay. Yes, I can. So once again, Saturn is, I've always thought it was structure. It's not. What is it? Wisdom.
Well, a lot of people align Saturn with structures and foundations and boundaries and limitations. And remember, in our classes, we're taking those, what I call mundane, which are Piscean keywords for these astrological energies, and we're upgrading them to Aquarian frequencies. And so everything that I share, okay, let me cancel, clear, and step back a minute. All of these frequencies have light frequencies and dark frequencies. They have the whole spectrum of that stick. A lot of people still in the Piscean representation of astrology are stuck down here in these patriarchal energies, particularly when it comes to Saturn and Capricorn and Saturn returns. Now, we know in the Aquarian frequencies that I have stated that Saturn is been usurped by the patriarchy and is reclaiming herself as a divine goddess, Saturnia. And in so doing, I have dubbed her the goddess of sovereignty. And so, you know, yes, we can look at where our shadow pieces may be in those more negative, dark energies. But I like to always focus on the uplifted, evolving, expanded energies. And that's why I recommended when you go onto Google and you do astrological keywords for Saturn or astrological keywords for Capricorn, and you look at those lists, when you see a word that resonates with you, go out to the thesaurus and find out what are other words similar to that word that may feel like it has a higher frequency to you that you can tune in and utilize. Do you remember when we did that work? I think it was in the second
Yes.
class.
Yes, I remember. I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember the work.
So for me, Saturn is all about manifestation, you know, because manifestation requires a mastery. Saturnia is the cosmic gatekeeper. Everything in the intangible world has to come through her in order to become tangible and show up for us.
Okay. That's a new way of looking at Saturn for me. Yeah.
Good. Good,
Thank
because
you.
she's conjunct your Pluto and Moon at the top of your chart.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
it is time to make friends with them because they are
Yes.
fully empowering you.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Yes. How about you, Wanda? What's going on, sweetheart?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's late in the day and I'm phasing.
That's okay. That's okay. All right. Okay, so here we are at the fourth gate activation aspects. This is what's going to blow your mind. First of all, the actual gate activation, which occurs when the Venus and Moon conjunct in the sky, is a part of a grand Earth trine. And it's connected to Orcus, the sacred vow, and it's connected to the IC of its chart, its energetic taproot. This heart chakra activation is being grounded into the heart, the energetic heart of every person, and you're going to see later, grounded into the heart of Gaia herself, Virgo. Pallas Athena and Jupiter are in Capricorn, and the Uranus retrograde are in Taurus that makes up this grand Earth trine. So we're going to look at that in a little bit. This is the piece that flippin' blew my mind. We don't have one trine, grand trine. We have 3 grand trines. And these 2 grand trines, air and fire, make a Star of David in the sky. Wait till you see that. In the air trine, we've got North Node in Gemini, Sun and Sekhmet in Libra, and the Great Earth Mother series in Aquarius. In the fire trine, we have the Mars retrograde, Eris, Black Moon Lilith in Aries, Vesta in Leo, and Ishion in Sagittarius.
So
Now look, go ahead.
So with the making the Star of David and having Mars activation that just started, that all has something to do with each other, doesn't it?
I was just going to say that. Yes, Wanda. Yes. Because look at what's a part of this. The Mars retrograde opposite the sun, which is the birth of the sacred masculine, is embedded into this Star of David. The birth of that sacred masculine Aquarian Aries archetype of the fierce protector is embedded in this Star of David at the heart gate activation of the sacred feminine.
Is that telling us then that as feminine energy, we're going to start feeling more protected or more safe?
Well, I would say that that could be a very good, uh, way that you may start to experience it, Wanda. Yes. The other thing is, of course, that this is bringing in and relating once again to this archetype of the divine creation. Because just like we had these two grand crosses present at the birth of the fierce protector, Aquarian, sacred masculine archetype, we've got them present here at this fourth gate heart activation. Because remember, the birth of the fierce protector happened on this same day, earlier in the day, and on this same day as this heart gate activation, and on this same day that Mercury stationed retrograde. Remember, we talked about how the archetype of the divine creation from the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine has a message that it is desiring for humanity to hear. And with Mercury going retrograde, it is making sure that we get that message. Now, what I want to point out here is that this second grand cross, you're going to see it, it goes right across the Star of David. And at the time of the birth of the fierce protector, sacred masculine archetype, earlier in the day, Asmodeus was still in Cancer, conjunct Medusa here, still in Cancer at 29 degrees 59 minutes. By the time this heart activation takes place a little bit later in the day, he has moved to 0 degrees of Leo, the sign of the compassionate heart. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. This is the majesty of infinite intelligence.
Well, was this what happened on the 13th of October?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. And in this Grand Cross, remember, we've got this, the second of the 3 Mars square Pluto events happening as well, right? Mars here, Pluto there, squaring off. Remember that that's a unique event for this year because there's 3 of them this year. Generally, there's 1, maybe 2, but very unusual for there to be 3 of these Mars square Pluto events. So these are the big activation aspects that are just mine. I mean, I thought that the chart for the sacred masculine at the birth of the Aquarian archetype of the fierce protector was intense with the Kabbalah tree of life image in it. This one is just as intense, if not even more so, because of the grounding of this information into the hearts of everybody in humanity and the earth too, and then this Star of David. So let me show you what's so spectacular about this Star of David. This is going to blow your mind, I promise. Turns out, it turns out that the Star of David in Hebrew translates to Shield of David. And so what this Star of David is, it's a shield. It's a breastplate. And its religious significance, there's this verse in Psalms, but you, God, are a shield for me. And they say that that is David referring to God as being the actual physical shield. Right? So you don't see him wearing a shield, but he's put on the armor of God, and God is the shield. Now, this Rabbi Feinstein tells us that the most convincing source for this sign is David himself. For it is clear that David did not find security in battle from any armor or shield. Only in God did he find himself securely enveloped, invulnerable from every side, above and below, east, west, north, south, 6 directions in all. Thus, the 6-pointed symbol stands for David's true shield, God. And when we're in sacred ceremony, what do, Maureen? We call in the above and the below, the east, west, north, and south, don't we? You guys could put on your microphones to help me for you guys to be able to respond to this. Now, not only is there a religious significance, but there's a mystical significance. And one of this, part of this symbol of the Star of David, and we know this to be sacred geometry, right? The triangle. This one representing Shiva. This one representing Shakti, right? Part of it is, one of them is an exoteric representation, and the other is an esoteric representation. So, God's revealed energy permeates and provides existence to all the worlds, but his essence is completely hidden, transcending all of creation. Similarly, the soul, which is a reflection of God, and this validates what I've been saying all along from the Abraham material, your inner being is an extension of source. The soul, which is a reflection of God, has a revealed element, that level that expresses itself within and vivifies the body, as well as an essence that transcends the body. This is the kind of work that we do in our priestess circles with these mysteries, the as above, so below, the as within, so without. The double triangle of the Star of David symbolizes the connection of both dimensions of God. Torah and Israel, the external level of the soul, connects to the external expression of God via studying the exoteric parts of the Torah. The essence of the soul connects with God's essence through the study and application of the teachings of Kabbalah. Kabbalah is an esoteric teaching. So this to me is just incredible. And of course, you know, happening with all of this Scorpio energy, Scorpio is the sign of these mysteries. And these mysteries are the esoteric teachings. Kabbalah as an esoteric teaching is a part of these Scorpio energies. The fact that in the sacred masculine's birth of the archetype chart, we had an image in the sky that looked like the Kabbalah tree of life. And now we have the Kabbalah's shield of David. This is no coincidence. This is, again, a signal from source, from God, goddess, whatever you want to call it, that this is a significant time in terms of the changing and evolution of humanity and humanity's hearts, and being able to have those hearts hold, seed and hold, sustain, manifest that archetype of divine creation that we've been talking about. What do you have to say about that, Maureen?
I fell out again.
Okay,
So I missed some stuff. I'm sorry.
that's okay. Leela, anything to share?
It's a lot to take in. It feels really powerful.
Yeah. Wanda, any impressions that you'd like to?
I agree with the other ladies that there's so much to take in, and at the same time, what came up for me is, oh my God, we're living in this time that is so profound, and we are part of it, and it's just it brings me to tears.
Yes.
So this is happening within our bodies and everybody's body that's on this planet. And it's happening without people sitting in meditation or doing rituals. It's just happening to us. And
Yes.
That's quite profound.
It is very profound, Wanda. Yes. I mean, my mind is blown. I just don't know how to put it any other way, because as I keep repeating, you cannot make this up. You just can't.
Well, and to be, for this information that you're providing us, it reminds me of religious movies I may have watched about God or Moses or those, and for all of the suffering that they went through. And they held on to that belief that, we were being transformed or guided. That's quite profound what you just shared with us.
Yes. Yes, it is. And the thing is, I didn't know this, and I wasn't looking for it. It revealed itself to us. And I don't know of anybody else that's even speaking to this right now. But this is the message that Mercury is speaking to the inner hearts of everybody through this Mercury retrograde vision quest. Any last thoughts or impressions that either of you would like to share? Okay. So this is what the chart looks like. And here you see the yellow grand trine in air. And here you see the orange grand trine in fire. Air and fire are both masculine energies making up this Star of David. Now, of course, it doesn't look precise because I'm not able to draw precisely. And more than that, you know, you can see though that that's a Star of David. Are you able to see that, Leela?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
How about you, Wanda? Can you see it?
I'm gonna have to look at it longer. I was too busy crying. I can see the green part.
Well, we're looking specifically right now at the orange triangle, right? The grand fire trine,
Oh,
and the
and the
yellow
yellow. Oh,
triangle, the
yes,
grand
yes,
air trine.
yes, yes.
And then this is the grand cross, the dark purple one that crosses right through the center of the Star of David. And look who's on that. That axis right there, the Mars retrograde opposite the sun, that was the event that signaled the birth of the Aquarian Aries archetype of the fierce protector. I mean, to me, it's just one of the most spectacular things I've ever seen. And here you can see Asmodeus earlier in the day was at 29:59 Cancer, but for this event, he has moved up here to 0 degrees, 2 minutes of Leo, into the heart, the compassionate heart of Leo. Now, when the new moon took place earlier in the month, just 3 days after this event, look where it happened at 25 degrees of Leo, of Libra, right here between the Sun and Sekhmet. And then when Mercury goes conjunct on election day, goes direct on election day, it's going to be conjunct where that new moon within, look, 1 minute. That's like the width of a hair, 1 minute. Practically in the same place in the sky between the Sun and Sekhmet. And remember what new moons are all about: seeding new consciousness. Seeding new consciousness in Libra is all about seeding new consciousness in of sacred, I'm having a hard time finding my words, seeding new consciousness around being in equal conscious partnership. That's what that new moon seeded just 3 days after all of this.
Is that telling us then that on election day, there's a possibility that then things will be starting to be better for humanity?
Well, it's a great question, Wanda, because remember what I said in the Sacred Masculine class, that no matter what the outcome of this election may look like on the surface, that we cannot attach to what it looks like, because we can rest confident in knowing that something very positive is going to come out of it, however it may look.
Thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah. And I will tell you personally, because there's so much noise out there about this that is very unhealthy. That
Yes.
since seeing all of this, it's really brought, and of course, Libra is the sign of peace. It's really brought a sense of peace to my own heart regarding whatever happens.
I haven't gotten there yet.
And then remember, on Samhain, the very end of this month, we've got that full moon in Taurus conjunct Uranus. So if the new moon, remember, is seeding the consciousness, the full moon is illuminating what is the consciousness. So if we're seeding the consciousness of conscious equal partnership, The full moon is illuminating that conscious equal partnership. And we are going to, in Taurus, embody that consciousness conjunct Uranus in a very liberated, radical, spontaneous, like a being hit by a lightning bolt way.
Well, it's nice to see you smiling, so I'll take that as a good sign.
Yes, yes, because this is happening for every person on the planet, whether they know it or not, whether they believe it or not, whether they care or not. It's happening. What do you have to say about that, Leela?
Very powerful. Yeah, I mean, every gate, I'm just in awe of the alignments of what's happening. And yeah, this one feels exceptionally powerful with this Mercury energy, and just that the full moon is on Samhain this year. There's just like so much
Yeah,
potency in the strong, kind of Scorpio overtone that's kind of being highlighted right now in our world, and the depth of the mystery, of the magic of being able to go into the shadows and not be afraid of what's being revealed, and being able to integrate that. And yeah, it feels like there's a lot of courage that's necessary at this time, but it's necessary because how else can we birth a new world and a new consciousness if we're not willing to look at what is in the way of that?
exactly. Absolutely. And you mentioning those Scorpio energies, remember that Scorpio energies are all about alchemy.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is happening because it's an alchemical unfolding. And in the magic of alchemy, people are not aware of what's happening, just like the alchemy that happens in the chrysalis.
Mm.
The caterpillar isn't aware that it's becoming a butterfly. The butterfly doesn't aware that it was a caterpillar. That alchemy is taking place there, and then it emerges in all its gloriousness, completely transformed. And that's how this is happening within each one of us.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Okay, it's 2.5 hours in. I've got all of the themes here, which you're familiar with from previous classes. Each of the themes of the signs that are involved in each of the earth signs here, and all of the words related to the luminary bodies of each sign. So I'm going to let you look at that on your own through the slides. And of course, we'll dive into that with your personal sessions. A lot of shamanic medicine going on here with each of these earth signs, and some really groovy questions here that you can ask yourself to tap into those heart demons and heart wounds. In what ways am I closing my heart to receive the fullness of my inner being's love and appreciation? And do I give thanks and appreciation to people from a place of valuing what they are offering to me? Or do I give that thanks and appreciation from a place of gratitude? And there's a subtle frequency difference there that you must be aware of. Because when we're in a place of appreciation, of value, that is a very high frequency. We are fully empowered. But when we're saying thank you, or I'm grateful, or I appreciate this from a place of gratitude, that's a lower frequency. It's subtle, but it is lower. And it holds the frequency of unworthiness, which is a disempowering frequency. So be keenly aware in your life as you are expressing gratitude and appreciation and thankfulness. And see, we use these words, gratitude and appreciation, interchangeably. But on a frequency level, how are you feeling? Are you feeling the value of that and appreciating that? Or are you feeling it from a grateful place? Like, I can't believe I got this. I'm so grateful to get it.
Where
Because
does this teaching come from? Because it it brings up some stuff for me, because for me, gratitude is a very high vibration and how I experience it. So I'm just curious where this comes from.
this comes from the Abraham Hicks material and the law of
Okay.
attraction.
Okay.
And remember, we're dealing with frequencies here, and there are subtle differences. Because of the deep dive into alchemy that we do, we deal with these subtleties, just like I had expressed to Wanda one time, the difference between the words nurture and nourish. People use them interchangeably, but when you feel into them, you can feel the subtle differences in their frequencies.
Hmm. I still don't really feel, to me, that gratitude holds the frequency of unworthiness.
That's because we haven't been taught that.
Right.
We've been taught that gratitude is a high frequency. But when you are feeling grateful for receiving something, it's because there is a slight frequency of feeling less than.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I can see that, and I also, yeah, I guess it's all like, what does the truth feel individually as well as like collectively? Because yeah.
Right. So there's a difference between using the words gratitude and appreciation interchangeably in your language
Mm,
and feeling what your intent is with it.
mm-hmm.
And so that's what I'm bringing your attention to. When you say, oh, I'm so grateful for this, is it because you're appreciating it from a value place? Or is it because you're feeling like, oh, I didn't have that and I'm so happy to get this now? I was lacking something and now I've got it.
See, I don't feel like gratitude comes from a place of lack. I just, yeah. And I mean, that's fine. I believe that there's many different ways of seeing things. And I just, like, I feel for me, the way that I see, and I have a really hard time with words, because for me, it's not, the word is all kind of semantics, really, because what gratitude feels like to me is kind of maybe what you're thinking of appreciation, but to me, the word is gratitude. And so maybe that's part of the twist, is that the feeling of it in my vibrational field, I know what it feels like, but I have a hard time being like, this is the word, because I'm like, English language is so limited by
Translate
vibrational. Yeah.
frequency,
Yeah.
translate the frequency. Exactly. And see, and you're a being that is already of a very, very, very vibration. The chances that you are having any of these pockets of unworthiness or lack or less than the fullness of who you are, this happens very infrequently for you, if at all. But for most people, I will say, especially if they've grown up in a space of what they identify as poverty,
Mm-hmm.
they will have a challenge distinguishing the frequency feeling of gratitude versus appreciation. They use them interchangeably. They think that they're the same.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I see what you're saying, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that, can you hear me? I don't know if I'm
Yes,
on.
yes, I can hear you, Wanda. Go ahead.
Really feeling into the words as you were saying them. And boy, I could really feel the difference today.
Yeah,
So yeah, thank you for pointing that out.
yeah. And so as we're becoming more and more conscious beings, in the past, I taught a class on conscious language, which Wanda participated in. And so this also comes from that teaching as well, being able to feel the difference in the frequency of the words that you're using to translate the frequency.
Mm-hmm.
So, great example in German. They've got so many more words to describe things in their language than we do in English. You know, so they have a better way of translating
Mm-hmm.
their messages than we do. Another question is, how is my heart closed to all that I am truly worthy of? And where am I unwilling to open my heart to allow myself to manifest my desires? So looking at the shamanic medicine, asking yourself these questions, contemplating them, can really open you up to those heart wounds and those heart demons. Here are all of the themes for the Star of David, the Grand Air Trine here. And whoops, what happened to, oh, hold on. And the Grand Fire Trine. And because I separated them based on space, what I did is I gave you all of the shamanic medicine related to the Grand Air Trine. And then I gave you questions to contemplate for that piece of the Star of David. And I did that separately for the Grand Fire Trine. So here we can ask ourselves, in what ways am I not trusting my inner guidance, that which my heart is receiving from my inner being? What causes me to close my heart in relationship or partnership with others? Where am I unwilling to open my heart to all that I came to contribute? And all of these questions relate to the shamanic medicine above, just pointing that out to you. And then here for the Grand Fire Trine, you can ask yourself, in what ways have I closed my heart to showing up in my life and in the world? How have I shut down my heart so that I am feeling crushed or wounded by others' expressions? Where am I unwilling to open my heart so that I can discern what I believe and be open to changing my beliefs? This is so important because we inherit beliefs from our ancestral lineage. And just because your parents believed it and your grandparents believe it, is it something that you really believe? And so this is a good way to look at, is it possible that some of these ancestral beliefs have actually created a little heart wound within me? And can I reclaim that power by tapping in and discovering, well, what is my belief around that? And then the Grand Cross, the first one is in the mutable signs. And we're going to talk about the mutable signs in a minute. And this Grand Cross takes into effect on the Virgo Pisces line, the path of the helpmate. The helpmate is someone who is as equally dedicated to their sacred work as you, and or supports your sacred work. And it also, that's the Magdalene opposite Yeshua on that path. It also takes into effect the path of the questmate with the North Node opposite Ishion, the sacred wound. And the questmate is someone who walks beside you on your spiritual path. And that relationship has a lot of space and freedom. And in that relationship, the quest for truth is honored. And what's so great about this mutable Grand Cross is that this is energy that adapts and accepts. And let me put on my glasses so I can read this. Hold on a second. And the mutable energies end things to begin something else. This is spectacular. We are ending the old Piscean patriarchal way of being and doing. And we're launching this new Aquarian way of being in conscious equal partnership. So here's the shamanic medicine for all of the mutable signs. And these are the questions you can ask to discover your heart wounds, your heart demons. In what ways have I closed my heart to allowing my imperfections, what I judge and deem imperfect or less than, to show up and be okay with me? Can you make peace with it? And before you can go to a higher frequency, before you can uplift yourself, before you can expand, you first have to be in that place where it's all okay and you allow it all. You make peace with it. How have I shut down my heart because of my own critical judgments and nitpicking of myself? What is the tape that is playing in your mind, right? That has shut down your heart space. And did you inherit that tape from somebody? Is it the voice of your mother? Is it the voice of, whomever that is playing that has shut your heart down? Where am I unwilling to open my heart so that I can know the truth of my own greatness? And we all, as extensions of Source, are great. We have just infinite potential to create and manifest through this sacred vessel in this particular life stream that we are living. Why?
Okay.
Yes.
I have a quick question around the one where how have I closed my heart? Which one was it?
The first one?
Well, yes, because what I find for me when I'm kind of exploring that is I feel like I definitely know that I've taken on a lot of my mother's and father's stuff. So how do I separate what's theirs, what's my belief? Is that just by writing about it? What's the best way to separate that?
Writing is a good way, but for me, I think contemplation is the way that works best for me, and really feeling into it. Is that something that resonates true for me? Or is it possible that that's somebody else's truth that's not my own and I no longer choose to claim? So, using whatever the ways that you can to get into that, reach into those other realms that are very intangible, whether it's meditation, if it's ecstatic dancing, if it's drumming, if it's the dream time, if it's, vision questing, whatever it is, maybe writing, maybe you just do spontaneous writing. That might be a way that you're able to get into that space and just really contemplate, what if this is mine? And what if this is someone else's that I've just taken on as mine? And I'm ready to take that off and put it down and walk away from it.
I would think everything I have is somebody else's at this point. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Why am I unwilling to open my heart so that I can be compassionate with myself? This is huge. And I often, when I'm speaking to my friends, and something's going on with them, I'll say, please be gentle with yourself. Because we were not taught, it was not modeled to us how to be compassionate with ourselves. This is the Grand Cross that goes across the Star of David, and it's a cardinal Grand Cross. Just to clarify, Leela, because I didn't mention this previously, with a Grand Cross, it's important to understand what kind of Grand Cross it is. As the other one was mutable, this one's cardinal. There could be also a fixed Grand Cross. It's the kind of Grand Cross that tells you really what the intention that those energies are fulfilling through that Grand Cross.
Thank you.
This one here invokes the path of family, home, and community, which has to do with creating space for children to be safe. And it invokes the path of conscious equal partnership. And again, just getting back to something I know I mentioned in the Sacred Masculine class that I did not mention here about the Grand Cross. The Grand Cross is an astrological term for a type of aspect in the sky that looks like an actual cross. We saw that cross on the chart earlier. And the way that I interpret that Grand Cross is infinite possibilities for creation and for breakthroughs in consciousness. And so a lot of people will talk about a Grand Cross in very negative, challenging ways, but I personally don't see it that way because of the infinite possibilities. And something that Maureen had mentioned previously is that it also opens up then infinite possibilities for the kinds of timelines you choose to bring forth and manifest. Now here as a cardinal cross, what we're looking at are energies that initiate and begin things. They are enterprising and have a will to accomplish something, oftentimes something new. Absolutely. We are seeding this new consciousness, not only of the archetype of divine creation, but also of being able to be in conscious equal partnership with our brothers and sisters around the world. And so it's going to require this kind of cardinal energy to initiate this, which is so new, so foreign to the minds of the people on this planet. And it has to be able to be not only grounded, but sustained and maintained. And so we'll see that that's going to happen as well. So here's all of the shamanic medicine around these cardinal energies. And the questions that you can ask yourself are, in what ways have I closed my heart to sensing and allowing my inspired action? How have I shut down my heart because it hurts too much to feel? How have I confused feeling with pain rather than my creative guidance, right? Using that emotional guidance system and knowing that when I'm feeling not so good, that is actually a creative opportunity to understand what it is that I do want to experience. So it launches that creation process. Where am I unwilling to share what is in my heart with others? And what is causing me to be unwilling to open my heart so that I can take a step forward in my life? Lots of ways here that you can dive in. So just finally want to point out here, this cosmic dance that's going on. We've been looking at this through the classes, starting the year with this Saturn conjunct Pluto and Capricorn, having these triple Jupiter-Pluto conjunctions in Capricorn. And what I'm super excited about, which I'm showing you here for the first time, is that at the winter solstice in December, Saturn is conjuncting Jupiter, and they're conjuncting in Aquarius. I mean, talk about the planet of manifestation, the planet of amplification. Everything that we're doing this year is going to be manifested under this new vision of what humanity can be. And it's going to be absolutely amplified and expanded throughout the collective consciousness of humanity. Okay, so now we're back down here to some Vision Quest opportunities.
And just a real quick, if you don't mind, I know we're getting late, but on that last that you were talking about the expansion of what is to come.
Yes.
So each one of us that instead of being on Facebook or thinking about problems, with each one of us that are focusing then instead on something beautiful or something we want to create, is that going to amplify that for the planet instead of, reading a cartoon that's negative or something like that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, Wanda. Remember, with the law of attraction, whatever you focus on, because we're using our magnetic heart space to broadcast what we're focusing, we are attracting that back. And so with this Saturn conjunct Jupiter, if we can hold that vision of what we're focused on, which is the Aquarius piece of it, right? The vision quest, or being able to see the big picture of what it is that you desire to experience for humanity, for yourself on this planet, then you are attracting that back. It's seeding, it's uplifting the collective consciousness of humanity, and you will start to see more and more evidence of that around you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Vision Quest opportunities. Way that you can really play with everything we've talked about today. You can do one, both, or none of it. You just get out of it what you put into it. Refer back to the personal soul information that I gave you on slide 12. That was that little chart about what fuels you. And I will update the houses to put what those houses are related to. Make a list of keywords for each element. Contemplate the words as you open your heart to receive the inspiration as to what fuels you. And then you can share that with us in the group session. The next thing is choose one of the 4 gate activation aspects that are on slide 13. That's the Grand Earth Trine, the Star of David, and each of the 2 Grand Crosses, the Mutable Grand Cross and the Cardinal Grand Cross. Pick one of those and play with the shamanic medicine and heart demons that I provided for that particular aspect, and share what comes up for you in the group session. Do those opportunities make sense to you? Do you understand what I'm intending there?
Yeah.
Great, great. All right, so our next support group is going to be on the day of the full moon at 2 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. I think Halloween has practically been canceled this year because of, you know, what's going on in the world with the shutdown, lockdown, whatever you want to call it. So it'd be a really great day for us to have our group session. Does that work for both of you?
Is it 2 p.m. Pacific or Eastern?
Would it be better if it was Pacific? Because I have it as Eastern, but if it's more convenient for both of you to have it 2 p.m. Pacific, I will do that.
I think earlier for me is better, personally.
That would be 11.
That would make it 11 a.m. Pacific. I said it backwards, didn't I? I apologize for that.
That's
Is
okay.
Is
So-
that the 31st on Sunday?
I think that's a Saturday.
It's Saturday.
Oh,
Yeah.
Saturday. Okay.
Saturday. So 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern.
It's 1 hour. Is that how long it is?
Mhm.
Okay. I think 11 works for me. I'm whatever works for everybody else.
Yeah, I can do 11.
I'm sorry, Wanda?
Yes.
Okay, good. So that's when that'll be. All right, so this is your opportunity to ask any final questions about all of this information. I didn't realize it would take us 3 hours today, but that's because we've only ever had 2 people in the class before. I'm gonna have to find a way, like Maureen referred to, with my Capricorn sun, I have to build stuff to make sure everybody has all the information. So I might get a little long-winded myself as well in the process.
I'm just always just blown away by how much you share and the vast amount of wisdom and just depth, and I feel like there's so much to take in, and I'm gonna go back over it and look at the slides and just kind of get like the feel for what's been going on. Yeah, so that's kind of, I don't know if I have any specific questions. I guess I can, ask that either next week. Yeah.
You can save them for the group session. Remember, you can always text me or email me at any time, whatever is
Yeah.
comfortable for you.
Okay.
But I know it's a lot to take in. I will tell both of you that I haven't had a chance to do the resource page yet because recovering from the concussion and whiplash over the past 2 weeks, it's really bogged me down. So now that we're through this class today, I'll spend this week as quickly as I can getting those resource pages up and running so that you'll have all that, the slides and all of the articles and videos and everything available to you.
Amazing.
Any final words, Wanda? I think you were going to say something, but then your mic went out.
Now?
Now I can hear you. Yeah.
I thank you. This has been incredible. It's been, once again, so much information. I have a lot of appreciation for all of the effort and work that you've put into this. It definitely answers so many questions. And it just feels like it's just so empowering to understand what little bit I do around all of this. It's just, I find it fascinating. So thank you for all that you're doing with this.
Thank you. I appreciate the validation. I really do. And I just can't tell you how full my heart is that all of you were able to participate in this class and be together. It's just meant the world to me. And I think it's really kicked it up a notch too.
Yes. It was nice to finally meet you, Leela. And just quickly too, will we, because your job situation is shifted, will we start doing these on days where Leela is allowed to be here instead of just the weekends?
That's a great question. So today is, what is today?
Monday.
Monday.
Moon Day.
So if you go to the website, you'll see that I've updated the schedule for the Sacred Feminine classes.
Oh,
And since this time works for everybody, I think I picked, it's either the first or second Monday of each month starting next month forward. And then the Sacred Masculine class will stay on the second Saturday. And actually that worked out better for me. It was too overwhelming to try to do the classes back to back on the same weekend. So that gives me some breathing room that I needed between them.
is 2:00 Pacific time in stone? Because I feel I'm pretty exhausted by the time this is over with at this time of the hour.
So what time would work better then?
Can we just kind of revisit it? I'm too tired to even think about it right now.
Okay, yeah, we can switch the time.
Or-
The other, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say regarding your personal sessions, we can start scheduling those, but give me, give me a couple days. So the earliest one, maybe starting Thursday.
I don't think I can do mine until next week.
I'm sorry, honey.
I don't think I can do mine until next week.
That's fine. That's fine. I just want to make sure we get our personal sessions in before we do the next gate class.
Thank you.
What was my question around that? So with the change in your availability, does that when's the best time to schedule the personal session? You heard what I said.
So now I can schedule sessions during the week,
Okay.
which I didn't do before because of the works of me traveling back and forth across the state.
Okay. Okay,
So,
great.
Yeah.
So I'll just message you with a couple different options and see what works for you.
Excellent.
Okay, great.
All right, beautiful guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sleep well, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.